Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art and culture, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. Well, I was half right with this. I knew there'd be some form of album bomb with Lil Wayne and the Carter 5, the sales, the streaming numbers, that made that practically undeniable. But what I didn't expect is that it would keep Logic and his new album from charting anything, with the entire The Carter 5 dominating the Hot 100 with a full 22 debuts from that album alone. And since I already reviewed The Carter 5, well, you'll see in a little bit. But suffice to say that now, considering album bombs are the norm in the streaming era and have really been throughout 2018, I'm going to be putting in some new rules on how to properly handle them in a way that's reasonable for the health of this show long term, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, our top 10, and let me register my surprise that Girls Like You by Maroon 5 featuring Cardi B somehow clung on to number 1. Make no mistake, it was close, but I think it comes with this song just having just enough sales and radio dominance to compensate for weak on-demand streaming, and the fact that our first new top 10 entry, Mona Lisa by Lil Wayne featuring Kendrick Lamar at number 2, just didn't have the radio penetration or that YouTube video to truly put it over the top. But without any radio push for that song, I have to wonder if it'll actually have any hope of getting higher and getting the number 1, especially given that there's real streaming competition with traction in other lanes. Take a look at Lucid Dreams by Juice WRLD, only down to number 3 because it has still considerable streaming and real radio. Similar case for Better Now by Post Malone, down only to number 4, but supported by even stronger, if kind of unstable radio. But then we have Don't Cry by Lil Wayne featuring XXXTentacion at number 5 as our second new entry. And while it does lag Mona Lisa in all categories and also doesn't have a radio push, there is a part of me that does have that unsettled feeling that it'll stick around regardless, simply on posthumous name recognition alone. Gross. Then there's Sicko Mode by Travis Scott somehow clinging on to number 6, and I have to think some of this comes back to the radio as the YouTube video still hasn't dropped, where it holds just enough traction to remain somewhat stable. But let's consider a Lil Wayne track that does have radio momentum and will likely stick around at least in the top 20, Uproar. And while many don't expect the challenge to really take off, it does have some single traction, at least for now. I gotta hope it sticks around, it's a really good song. But now we got a surprising gain for Youngblood by 5 Seconds of Summer up to number 8. Yeah, a good week on the radio and the sales were solid, but I reckon the boost came more from streaming infighting than any real traction coming up beneath this song, which is not the case for In My Feelings by Drake though, as it's falling to number 9 as it bleeds out on all fronts. It'll likely be out of the top 10 pretty fast. And finally, one last Lil Wayne entry with Let It Fly featuring Travis Scott at number 10. Like Mona Lisa and Don't Cry, it doesn't have any radio, so it'll probably fall out pretty fast, but it's very telling how much Travis Scott's name will hold chart momentum in 2018, even outside of competition with Nicki Minaj, which I can at least appreciate. And on that note, our losers and dropouts. And we had some big ones this week in the latter category, with the 3 most notable being God's Plan and Nice for What from Drake, and Perfect by Ed Sheeran, finally being forced off the Hot 100 after over a year being on this chart. Now what I find more notable are songs like All Girls Are the Same by Juice WRLD and Ape Shit by the Carters being muscled off early, both likely to miss the year-end list for 2018, and that's before you get some okay runs that got sliced short, like Barbie Trains for Nicki Minaj, Stargazing from Travis Scott, and Life Changes by Thomas Rhett. And that last one really did kind of catch me off guard a bit when it came to our losers, because they weren't just strong streaming cuts that are getting hit here. Simple by Florida Georgia Line fell to 53. She Got the Best of Me by Luke Combs hit 58. Hotel Key by Old Dominion fell to 69. Break Up in the End by Cole Swindle broke down to 73. Drunk Me by Mitchell Tenpenny hit 80. Sunrise, Sunburn, Sunset by Luke Bryan fell to 85. Hanging On by Chris Young fell to 96. Drunk Girl by Chris Jansen dropped to 97. And Drowns the Whiskey by Jason Aldean featuring Miranda Lambert hit 100. And that's just the country losses. R&B and pop had it just about as bad, even with the radio support behind these songs, as Booed Up by LMA dropped to 33. No Tears Left to Cry and Breathin' by Ariana Grande hit 43 and 68 respectively. You Say by Lauren Daigle lost all its gains to 7 70. The Way I Am by Charlie Puth fell to 77. Ring by Cardi B featuring Kalani broke to 61. Drew Barrymore by Bryce Vine hit 63. Jackie Chan by Tiesto, Dzeko, Post Malone, and Preem dropped to 65. Promises by Calvin Harris and Sam Smith broke at 85. Better by Khalid continued down to 87. Medicine by Queen Naija stopped working at 89. Best Part by Daniel Caesar featuring Her slipped down to 91. And Head Above Water by Avril Lavigne lost hard off the debut last week to 93. I'm amazed it's here at all. Then you've got hip hop and trap, and as I predicted, it was a bloodbath here. No Brainer by DJ Khaled featuring Justin Bieber, Chance the Rapper, and Quavo went to 30. Falling Down by the late Lil Peep and XXXTentacion lost hard to 40. Wake Up in the Sky by Gucci Mane, Bruno Mars, and Kodak Black fell to 51. New Patek by Lil Uzi Vert lost all its gains to 54. That's On Me by Yella Beezy went down to 88. Workin' Me by Quavo slipped down to 91. Leave Me Alone by Flip De Niro lost all its gains to 98. And No Stylist by French Montana featuring Drake plummeted off its debut to 94. Hell, even Rap Beef couldn't hold up its attention as Lucky You by Eminem featuring Joyner Lucas continued down to 55. Rap Devil by Machine Gun Kelly slid down to 79. And Kill Shot by Eminem hit 34. Frankly, that lasted longer and higher than I expected. Oh, and Africa by Weezer fell down to 67. Good riddance. Now, okay. We don't have any gains this week, just a return for Lost in Japan by Shawn Mendes, which seems to be getting a radio push to 99 thanks to a remix with Zedd, but we do have a ton of new arrivals. And now I think it's appropriate to discuss something about Billboard Breakdown that I'm sure you all have noticed over the course of the past year. Namely, that it can get really goddamn tedious when I'm just rattling through a list of songs on which I already spoke in a review at length when an entire album impacts the Hot 100, otherwise known as an album bomb. It's a pain in the ass for me to put together those mostly redundant pieces, and more importantly, I've seen comments from you guys where they just check out because just another album bomb week, we already heard the album, don't need to hear you talk about it again. And as such, in the interest of your time and my sanity, I'm putting my foot down and introducing a set of rules for Billboard Breakdown album bomb specifically. I should have done this a year ago. And so, in the event of an album bomb event with 8 or more new entries impacting the Hot 100 in the same week from an album that I have already reviewed on my channel, my coverage will be as follows. Full discussion of all new songs from the album landing in the top 10, and my best and worst entries, including honorable, dishonorable mention candidates if they happen to land on songs from the album bomb. I'll cover the regular songs in just the regular order, and the rest, look, the Lil Wayne album was an ocean of underwhelming filler. So here's where the Lil Wayne tracks that I'm not covering landed on the Hot 100. You want to check out the review? It's linked to the side. Go ahead, have fun. But as the rest, Dope New Gospel by Lil Wayne featuring Nivea at 90. Perfect Strangers by Lil Wayne at 86. Demon by Lil Wayne at 81. Used To by Lil Wayne at 78. Start This Shit Off Right by Lil Wayne featuring Ashanti and Mack Maine at 76. Mess by Lil Wayne at 74. Took His Time by Lil Wayne at 65. Open Safe by Lil Wayne at 62. Hittas by Lil Wayne at 59. Problems by Lil Wayne at 57. Open Letter by Lil Wayne at 56. Dope N-Words by Lil Wayne featuring Snoop Dogg at 39. Famous by Lil Wayne featuring Reginae Carter at 36. Dark Side of the Moon by Lil Wayne featuring Nicki Minaj at 26. What About Me by Lil Wayne featuring Sosa Man at 24. Can't Be Broken by Lil Wayne at 17. And Dedicate by Lil Wayne at 14. And now for a much more reasonable list of new arrivals for which we'll be selecting our best and our worst. Number 75, Let It All Work Out by Lil Wayne.
Said don't let the money come between us. I'm loaded at my earliest convenience. But fuck 'em, I feel like I got 10 middle fingers.
So alright, there are 3 legitimately great songs that debuted from the Carter 5 this week. And by some miracle, 2 of them actually wound up in the top 10, so we'll be talking about them fairly soon. Now the last of them is the album Closer, and it's a pretty damn great song in its own right. The vocal sample from Sampha, the piano riding off that thick low end and the sandy percussion that does feel a little bit tinny, but the real star, as with many of these songs, Lil Wayne himself, who might start off his first verse on balancing out pride and longevity in the game, and his second verse is a tribute to his mother and a lesson to never actually hit women, which is kind of contradicts what he said in Open Safe, but whatever, he's on the right side here, as well as a half-formed reference to a member of TLC of all people. But it's the third verse that truly cuts for me, where the tempo picks up just a little bit, and he talks about the time when in his teenage years he shot himself. which he now reveals was a botched suicide attempt, given a second chance to keep on living when he woke up covered in blood. And for an album arc where Lil Wayne has finally released the Carter 5, it's just a powerful capstone. Damn great song to boot, really powerful closer. Definitely check it out. It's worth it. Number 56, If I'm Lyin, I'm Flyin by Kodak Black.
I'm special with the mic, special with the whipping. I ran out of money, had to pay attention to all the people that were around me. They ain't have my best interest. You ain't have my best interest.
I'm starting to come to the unpleasant realization that the only reason we aren't seeing more Kodak Black hits on the Hot 100 was because he was in jail, not because the collective public came to the rightful conclusion that, you know, he sucks. Now, to be at least somewhat fair, this is a slightly better song than most coming from him, mostly coasting off that lumpy Pointer Sisters sample and the fact that it's just over 2 minutes long, and that the content doesn't really have any truly egregious bad punchlines. But between the multi-tracking and Kodak Black's utterly lousy diction, and the hard rhyming, and rhyming words themselves, or sometimes just not rhyming at all, there's just not enough to really praise about Kodak Black as a performer, especially when Lil Wayne came on spitting hard on track after track, and given how heavily influenced Kodak Black is by Lil Wayne, there's no reason for the wannabe. So yeah, this isn't precisely bad, but I'd be hard-pressed to call it better than average, especially these days, and really just kind of mediocre. I'd pass. Number 28, Shallow by Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper.
In all the good times I find myself longing for change, and in the bad times I fear myself.
So yes, I'll be looking to see A Star Is Born probably this weekend ahead, and from some of the cursory readings surrounding the soundtrack, I've discovered that a song like this one develops most of its weight from the larger context within the movie, which makes it a little bit hard to judge on its own here, especially when I checked the writing credits and I didn't notice any of the heavyweight alt-country names attached like Natalie Hemby, Laurie McKenna, or Jason Isbell, who I know to be associated with the soundtrack. And thus with this, alright, I'm gonna give Bradley Cooper right out of the gate some credits for having a pretty solid baritone with a solid twang that works opposite the acoustic guitar, but it's clear that when the piano kicks in for Lady Gaga, she's just operating on a different level when it comes to dramatic presence and vocal firepower, especially moving into her upper register. She sounds fantastic here, and the lyrics pick up that resonant power too off a really good composition, with Cooper fitting into the decaying Americana star and Lady Gaga's sharper rejoinders, showing the risk of the give and take in their relationship and how innately toxic it might be. And outside of some nitpicks around somehow the vocals are layered, yeah, I can't complain. It's a goddamn great pop song. Pretty straightforward, but it works. And while I was curious about that movie before, now I'm actively looking forward to this, because this is really good. I'd be happy to see this stick around. Number 27, Taki Taki by DJ Snake featuring Selena Gomez, Ozuna, and Cardi B. You know, I'd like to say that I'm surprised that this is how DJ Snake would get his next crossover single, but I'm not. Sure, Ozuna's here for the reggaeton crossover, Cardi B for the rap cred, and Selena Gomez because she's basically the only modern pop singers at any consistent record with producer-driven songs in recent years. It's just a damn shame that for some ungodly reason they gave the hook and first verse to Ozuna to play out that fizzy beat, weedy but muted flute, and a thicker bass before switching into Cardi B delivering a pretty underwhelming luxury rap verse, and Selena Gomez sounding way better than I was expecting against this production by leaning into more of her sultry side, which I've always thought is underrated. And it was kind of strange. Her limited personality almost reminds me in concept of Britney Spears, namely in how mostly synthetic vocal production enhances her presence on the more electronic groove, where Cardi B brings all the personality and just overwhelms things, and Ozuna tries to project personality and fails. Overall, look, with that many names attached, I can see this doing well, but radio's not on board yet, so I don't know. We'll have to see. Number 10, Let It Fly by Lil Wayne featuring Travis Scott.
I can decide. Word to my guys. She just gets so wet, I slip and slide. Had to get it back to give them 5.
Of all the Lil Wayne songs that I'm covering this week, this is the one for which I've got the least to say. Basically because it sounds like a Travis Scott song from 2015 with a particularly murderous closing verse from Lil Wayne. Seriously, I was shocked to discover this was actually finished in 2018. The mixing on the pianos and Travis's autotune feel really lacking in the lush, suffocating atmosphere of Astroworld, and while the beat is alright, it's pretty good, Travis doesn't really add much before Lil Wayne shows up with some of the tightest rapping on the entire Carter 5. Yeah, it's not really much beyond a bunch of ways he's gonna kill you, but the connectivity of the rhyme pattern is just enough to put this in higher territory and elevate the song as a result. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward, but it's a damn good song. Happy it debuted this high. Check it out. Number 7, Uproar by Lil Wayne.
5, 4, 3, 2, I let one go. Wow, get the fuck though. I don't bluff, bro. Aiming at your head like a buffalo. You a roughneck, I'm a cutthroat. You a tough guy. That's enough jokes. Then the sun died. The night is young though. The diamond still shine in a rough hole.
Not gonna lie, I'm a little bit stunned this broke as high as it did. Yes, I know there was a challenge associated with the song, but it doesn't sound like anything that would have come out in 2018 either, so much as a cut from the Carter 1 or the Carter 2 from the early mid-2000s. Part of this is the Swiss Beats production with the sharp treble pianos and the crowd noise flooding into the mix against that beat from a sample that Lil Wayne has used before and said he doesn't even like it. And while I think this track could afford Lil Wayne to sound a little bit more nasal and hungry than the oddly dazed affectation he seems to have here, but his bars all consistently connect for pretty much exactly what you need for a banger of this stripe. It's nothing revolutionary, the wordplay doesn't go above and beyond, sure, but it's a blast from the past in exactly the best way for my preferences with Lil Wayne, and I enjoyed the hell out of this. Definitely check it out. Unlike, say, number 5, Don't Cry by Lil Wayne featuring XXXTentacion. So I'm getting the nauseating feeling that snippets of XXXTentacion's recorded output are going to be tacked on to a lot of songs for the easy name recognition, as apparently it was done so here without his knowledge before he passed. And I could restate again, in my opinion, that this money grab is gross and wrong and put together by people who should really know a lot better, but I think what's more infuriating is how sloppy the vocals are mixed, especially on the second verse of Lil Wayne's awkwardly tapped on auto-tuned ad-libs. The fidelity doesn't match up. Pair with how I've never liked X's singing, the dreary clanking production, and Lil Wayne's slower, introspective but rarely hard-hitting bars that uses X's name as a punchline for his own extended life. Yeah, nope. It remains the worst song on the Carter 5 and a pretty lousy song in its own right, especially in comparison to, say, number 2, Mona Lisa by Lil Wayne featuring Kendrick Lamar.
With these bitches, and when they leave, they get followed. Fall asleep with that bitch and really don't know much about her. Then she let us in, we take all of your shit, and when you wake up, she help you try to find it. I love her.
Man, I really wanted this to go to number 1, because it's the sort of superstar team-up that almost seems destined for it, with Kendrick Lamar comfortably stepping into the supporting role of this murderous love story song in the same way that he did on Eminem's Love Game 5 years ago. Man, that should have been a single. And while Lil Wayne is a more creative killer than most on the mic, what I love about this is the storytelling and the context wrapped around this song, which, yeah, probably leans a little bit heavier than it should in the girls who seduced, rob, and kill their boyfriends under the command of Lil Wayne, but then Kendrick Lamar shows up as said boyfriend, consumed by paranoia and jealousy, and you see yet another side of the story where nobody is completely innocent on this. Probably for the best they point that out. Oh, and the haunted pianos and the symphonic swell, the production adds a ton of gothic melodrama in the best way possible, and both Kendrick Lamar and Wayne sound fantastic as this production with tremendous flows. Even though I'm still not the biggest fan of Kendrick Lamar's crying voice delivery that he used on You a couple years back. Still not crazy about it, but it kind of works for what he's doing here. And yeah, there's a reason why pretty much everybody has praised this as the obvious highlight on the Carter 5. And for me, it's a clear standout for the best of the week. But for me, there's also a tie for honorable mention, with Let It All Work Out by Lil Wayne matching up with Shallow from Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. Now the worst of the week, unsurprisingly, it's Don't Cry by Lil Wayne featuring XXXTentacion, and honestly, I'd struggle to give out a true dishonorable mention, even as that Kodak Black song wasn't that terrible, and there weren't any obvious songs from the Carter 5 that fit in that slot either, so you know what the hell, let's pass on it, let's celebrate. Next week, the fallout from all this, or maybe Maybe a few 21 Pilots songs might spring a few cuts onto the Hot 100. More likely it's gonna be Lil Baby and Gunna, Joy. But we'll see where that goes. Till then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.